Hello, I'm Emma Desi, and welcome to another episode of Turning Readers into Writers. If you're brand new here, welcome, and here's what you need to know. This is a community that believes you are never too old to write your first novel. No matter what you've been up to until now, if you're ready to write your book, I'm ready to help you reach the end. I focus on helping you find the time and confidence to begin your writing journey, as well as the craft and skills you need to finish the book. Each week I interview debut authors, editors and industry experts to keep you motivated, inspired and educated on all things writing, editing and publishing. If you want to catch up, head on over to emmadesi.com where you'll find a wealth of information and tools to help you get started. Before we dive in, this week's episode is brought to you by my free cheat sheet, 30 Top Tips to Find Time to Write. In this guide, I give you 30 ways that you can find time to write in the small gaps that appear between the various errands and tasks and responsibilities that you have in your day-to-day life. Now, you might be thinking that you don't have any time to spare, but I can guarantee these top tips will give you writing time you didn't think you had. If you thought writing always involved a pen and paper or a keyboard, think again. If you thought you needed at least an hour at a time to write your manuscript, I help you reframe that. You won't be disappointed. Get your free copy of 30 Top Tips to Find Time to Write by going to emmadesi.com/30 Top Tips. Okay, let's dive in to today's episode. Carissa Andrews, an international best-selling author with more than 15 published books, is president of the Lakes Area Writers Alliance, a Minnesota non-profit dedicated to the literary arts. In addition, she's also the CEO of Author Revolution, an online academy with multiple courses, which has the single purpose of demystifying the indie publishing process. In her spare time, she's also the host of the Author Revolution podcast. And I really, more than most episodes, I really recommend you listen to this one, whether or not you want to be an indie author or if you want to go the traditional route. Today, we talk about mindset, the millionaire mindset. And this is something that is relevant to every single writer, certainly, creative, definitely, probably every single person. Now, it's not that you necessarily want to become a millionaire, but it's about changing the way that you view money and your relationship to money and what it can do for you and what it can do for the people around you. My own experience of working with writers is that there's a real fear around money and it's seen as a dirty word. That if you're an artist, if you're a creative, you're a writer, it shouldn't be about money. But at the same time, most of the writers I come in contact with want to earn a living with their money. So it's a really complex relationship that we've got. And I am sure that today's conversation with Carissa will help you see things in a new way, and hopefully enough of a new way that you start to implement changes about how you view money and what money can do for you and the people around you. So delve in, enjoy, and of course you can always get in touch with Carissa if you've got more questions. I know that she'll be more than happy to answer them. All right, enough of me. Let's get chatting to Carissa. Well, hi Carissa, thanks for joining me. As always, it's lovely to see you.
Thank you so much for having me, Emma. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I just thought I'd start with, for those who sort of don't know you, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your journey to writing.
Sure. Yeah. So for me, I guess I've always been a writer to some degree. Of course, being a younger adult, I was always very interested in poetry, the angsty kind, I think everyone goes through that phase, especially when you're learning poetry in like middle school or in junior high, whatever. And I kind of transitioned though, when I was 14 into writing fiction, which was super weird. My friends were looking at me like I grew horns. I wrote my first novel when I was 14, and it all came because of a really in-depth, I guess, dream that to this day, I still remember. It felt like more like a past life regression memory or something. And I wrote this like very Fear Street-esque type novel and gave it to my English teacher. And she, of course, loved it, even though the poor woman, I don't even know, she must have been reading it, wondering what in the heck, but she encouraged me. She was very supportive. And for a while there, I would write, short stories and a lot of different things, and kind of I transitioned into graphic design for a bit. And so I kind of left the writing side until I realized I went to school for graphic design. I became a graphic designer and I hated it. I hated it so much because the corporate world was terrible. And my best friend was like, you know what? You've always loved writing. Why aren't you like starting a blog or something? You should write a book. You know, she was just throwing stuff out there because I was lamenting my life at the time. And I was like, okay, I could start a blog, you know, that I could do. And I started a blog and started writing some of the, you know, the big thoughts in my brain at the time. And it was like, I think my first blog post was like how the internet is the Akashic records. You know, these kind of deep, weird thoughts that are like, where else are you going to put these things? I guess a blog, why not? But once I was starting to get some of them out onto the blog, my friend was like, you know what, you should write a story. Ooh, I've always wanted a love story with a ghost. That would be really cool. Or, you know, she did all these things and she wanted me to start writing this particular love story with a ghost. And so I think I wrote a chapter and then I got the idea for Pendamis. And so that was my first book. I ended up putting the ghost story aside. I have no idea if I still have that chapter, but the rest was history. I wrote Pendamis and kind of didn't look back from that point forward. So now I think I have 20 books that are published, but not all of them are single titles. Some of them are box set or compilation omnibus editions, but I didn't stop writing.
Yeah, no, you've had a fantastic trajectory, really have. A real inspiration to us, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the strategy that you've used for that. But I wanted to just talk about what it is to be an indie author as opposed to being a traditionally published author. But I think I get the feeling that mindset for and how we approach being an independent author is quite different to that as to how we approach the traditional world. And do you think having a positive approach or even a growth mindset, some people might say, is necessary if you want to be an independent author?
I wouldn't say it's necessary, but I would say that if you want to have a sustainable and fulfilling career, having a growth mindset is absolutely critical. But I think if you're just, you know, like, hey, I just want to write this book, it's fun, you know, I just enjoy the process. My husband's like this, you know, then it's like, do you have to have that kind of mindset? No, probably not. You just need to have the mindset of, I'm going to finish this thing and throw it out there and I don't care who the heck reads it, right? But I think if you want to earn a living and if you want to have a career in this and you really want to earn the royalties that come along with that, you absolutely have to have that growth mindset and realize that every book you put out there is adding up in your favor. It's bringing you into this realm of indie authorship that not everybody actually gets to, because some people will write 1 or 2 books and think, oh, it's not working for me, and then they're going to stop. Mm-hmm. Where if you want to have a career, why would you stop? It's a long-term, long game thing, you know, just keep going.
Yeah, and I think that's something a lot of people don't think about, and I have to keep reminding myself as well. And I think it was Joanna Penn that sort of put that idea in my head that this is not an overnight thing. Well, for most of us, it's not. But you're in it for the long-term gain, and in order to build a catalogue like you've got to be consistent and kind of stick with it and give yourself the chance to succeed and do well at it. And what I've noticed in my own career as well is that in comes this other side that we don't think about when we're at the beginning and just thinking about writing a book, but it's the whole kind of business side of being an author. And that I think is a big shock to people. And so being a business, there's 2 bits to that, or multiple bits to that. One, of course, is the creative side and actually creating the book and the product. But what have you noticed that are the sort of other sides to running an author, being an entrepreneur, as they call it, but certainly, you know, running a business? What are some of the things that have taken you by surprise?
I think the number of hats that we actually do end up wearing. If you're going to be a successful indie, especially in the beginning, and if you don't have the, you know, like a secondary career or a spouse who can support your dream of becoming this, it means taking on a lot of the things yourself. And so I think I counted, there's something like 20 plus hats that we indie authors wear. It's crazy, you know, because we're writing our books, We're creating the book blurbs most times. Sometimes we are doing our own covers. We're a social media manager. We are a newsletter guru. I mean, we've got all these things, right, that we have to try to figure out. Keyword specialist. Like, who knew you were going to have to figure out keywords when you're writing your book? Like, how is this a thing? Right? So I think for me, though, the thing that really slapped me upside the head was when I was like, oh my God, I'm doing all these things and I can't do it all anymore. It's like when it finally got to the point where it's like, there's so much to do, especially when you have more than 1 or 2 books out there and you're starting to get the backlist built, realizing that you have to now become a boss. You have to hire someone to help you. And hopefully that someone is good, because you want someone who can complement what you do, someone who is able to take on the tasks that you don't want to do and who loves doing it. And so hiring a PA was like the thing that really cracked open my mind of like, okay, this is how you're able to progress without losing your loving mind. You know, this is how you can move forward and really expand into new areas and still keep your creativity and your wits about you.
Yeah, I certainly never envisaged myself needing to be a boss. Yeah, I think that's a scary proposition for many of us who perhaps have not been in the corporate world and not managed a team before. It's a whole new skill level. Oh my goodness, we could do a whole episode on that alone.
Yeah.
So I'm going to return back to the your strategy that you've used to see the success that you've had, and that is one of a rapid release. And I wonder if you could tell us, just for those who aren't familiar with that strategy, what a rapid release strategy is.
Sure. Well, if anyone's heard of 20 books to 50K, you've probably somewhat heard of or learned of rapid release, because, you know, Michael Anderle and Craig Martella are wonderful at being able to describe how having a fast capability for writing books is going to help you increase your overall recognition. It's going to help you on Amazon. It's going to give you more royalties because more books are coming out, obviously. And when I first started following them back in 2017, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know people could be doing it this fast. Like NaNoWriMo blew my mind back in 2010, right? And so I was like, more than 1 book a year? Really? And so I was like, I'm going to do it. So in 2017, I did 2 books, which was like incredible at the time. But I found as I started increasing my speed and as I started trying to write, a lot more books, it got to be super stressful because of all those hats that we're already wearing. And because if you're working another job or if you have kids, which I have, I had at the time 5 kids in the house, when you're doing all these different things, it gets too overwhelming. And then you start falling behind, or you start feeling like you're forgetting something, or you start feeling like things are not working quite right. So let's back up a little bit. Rapid release strategies are literally just the launch strategies. So when you're going into writing a book, it means that you're writing your books for the purpose of launching them somewhat close together. And you can do this either by, releasing them a book a month. Some people do it bi-weekly, which is crazy in my mind. Some people are doing it every other month. Some people are doing it quarterly. And technically, if you're launching a book every year, that still can be considered rapid release because you're still being prolific. You're still doing this thing every single year. People can rely on when these books are coming, etc. Mm-hmm. What I teach, though, is that rather than losing your mind with, constant, I think I almost talk about it on my podcast as well, toxic productivity, where you feel like you are constantly trying to produce the stuff. Mm-hmm. Rather than doing that, it's more about focusing on your editorial calendar and knowing that you can be in control of that and going, okay, I'm going to launch. And what I recommend in my program Rapid Release Roadmap is that you launch 4 books a year. 4 books is a great number for being prolific, for continuing your process forward, for building that backlist quickly, but without losing all sense of yourself and like telling your family, I won't see you for the next God knows how long. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a little bit better. It's a little more comfortable and you can kind of breathe a little bit. And the way I teach it, you can also have days off throughout your week as you're writing, when you're doing your 6-week writing sprint. And so there's a lot of stuff that can go into that. But when it comes to being more sustainable, the 2 that I have that I really tell people a lot is either to pick your release strategy where you're releasing quarterly, like a book a quarter. Mm-hmm. And that one feels a little bit nicer because you can, write the book, launch it, and then start moving on to the next book. You don't have to necessarily be super far in advance of your launch schedule. Where if you're going to start launching a book a month, it's really beneficial, at least for your sanity to have a number of books already written before they start launching. Mm-hmm. So you're going to want to have 3, maybe 4 books already written before you start doing a book a month. So that way you're in advance of yourself. But if you're doing it for a year, you could have 2 of them ready to go at before you start launching. As long as you know what your schedule looks like and how quickly you can write, mm-hmm. it's not as big of a deal.
Yeah, I love what you said there about being in control of your time. And this is something I speak a lot about as well, because often we hear people say, I don't have time to write, I don't have enough time. But I'm a big believer in planning, and it sounds like you are too. Yeah. And if you can schedule your time ahead or plan your time ahead, then you feel more in control, so you feel more relaxed, and you can come to your desk with a completely different headspace than if you're just trying to squeeze some writing time in around your already busy life.
Frantic manifestation. That's what that is otherwise. Frantic manifestation.
Yes. So that's really good. So we know then that rapid releasing can be as far apart as 1 book a year, but making sure that it's the same time every year, but also can be as rapid as a book a month as well, and kind of everything in between. And so you found that to be very successful, and I know that you teach it with your rapid release roadmap course. Could you tell us something about that?
Sure. Yeah. So in Rapid Release Roadmap, I talk a lot about why it's so important to have that editorial calendar, and why it's important to decide for yourself what those release schedules are going to look like, and decide, whether you're going to be doing it a book a quarter, or if it's going to be 2 books a year, whatever that's going to look like for you. And it's important then to know, okay, the best way to launch your books is through a series, because if you're going to write 4 books in a year, you're not having to recreate the wheel every single time. And so we do this whole series planning part of it, where we're going through, okay, there's 3 different types of series. There's the finite arc, there's a standalone series, and then there's the never ending series that will just continue on with books. They can be connected, or not. Sometimes they're not, throughout the whole thing. And so they could go on for, 3,500,000 books, whatever, you know what I mean? And so I help them try to figure out what that's going to look like, what series they're going to be planning. And then they decide on what the schedule is going to look like. And when we go into it, I'm a nano fan. And so what I decided to do for my authors and my students is to show them that, look, you can kind of take what Nano does and kind of spread it out just a little bit. So I do a 6-week writing sprint. And so we do 6 weeks so that we're writing every single day, but have weekends off. You know what I mean? So it's 5 days a week. We're doing probably around 2,000 words a day during that 6-week time frame. But when it's done, then you're moving on to the editorial phase. You're worrying about the next planning phase. That's going to be super quick because you've already done the series part of it. And then you're going to be pushing it out to the production side of it and getting it moved in. And so we talk a lot about, how the promotion schedule should look, and different ways you can increase that speed and really make it more manageable without feeling like you're a headless chicken running around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've been there. I have been there.
And that's what's so great about it, is you have been there. And so now you've taken what you've learned and are sharing it with your students. And I particularly love that you do offer not just how to write the book or write the series and plan it, but how do you launch it as well? Because that's a whole new kind of area of skill, and you give it to people there. This is how to do it, and keep it simple and make it sort of easy and doable, and probably enjoyable as well. For many people.
We indie authors, because we love, obviously we love our stories. We love to weave in our subplots and whatever. So when it comes to like our real life, we make things way more complicated than they need to be. It's like, we like the hard way around. What is that?
Exactly. Yeah. And so is your the roadmap, is it great for new writers as well, or do you need to be a little bit further down the line? Who do you think this is a good course for?
I think it's good for anyone who has kind of the baseline of what it's going to look like to publish. As long as they have an understanding of the landscape, I think they'd be fine. Because you don't, when I go in through Rapid Release Roadmap, and even though my recommendations are for a year, you don't have to start there. Like the process is the same, it's the same 4 processes, no matter if you're publishing a book a year or if you're publishing 4 books a year or 12 books a year. You still have to plan it, you have to write it and edit it, you still have to publish it, and you still have to promote it. So those phases are always going to be the same. It's just a matter of what level and how quickly you want to be able to go ahead and do those things. And one of the biggest parts is knowing that the launch strategy is only part of it. Like you don't have to, if a launch goes awry and you don't get the kinds of readers that you're really looking for, you can always relaunch through a huge promotion or a promo stacking week, or, there's all sorts of different ways. Really, the rapid release launch is only a small part of what it is you're doing. That the goal of it is just to keep you moving forward and get that ball rolling and keep that backlist growing.
Mm-hmm. And it's a great way to do it. It's a super course that you've put together there. So I really recommend our listeners check it out. Definitely.
Thank you.
So you mentioned 20 books to 50K there. So 50K, that's something that I think a lot of us would love to get to, and beyond even. But I've certainly noticed that money can be quite a emotive subject for a lot of writers. And there seems to be kind of a lot of fear around investing in oneself or investing in the book itself. But I noticed that that's something that you've been talking a little bit about recently, is the idea of the millionaire author mindset, which I love. I'm big into that. So I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about what it is you've been speaking about recently.
Sure, you bet. Well, I think you really put the nail on the head there, Emma, when it comes to hit the nail on the head, whatever. you know what I'm saying. It really comes down to, like, I've been in this industry for over a decade now, which is super weird, but okay. And I've seen over and over through myself and through my peers that we do have this like poverty mindset when it comes to our books and our writing and our creations. And one of the missions that I have and have always had, but I've kind of transitioned a little bit this past year, is to start talking more about it, because indie authors have this idea that they almost have to be the starving artist, right? And it's so not the case. And one of the things that I have always been fascinated with is money mindset, and having the idea that manifestation is a hands-on thing. It's not just like this woo-woo topic. It's actually literally like energetic frequency, and making sure that you are thinking thoughts that are in alignment to your beliefs. Your beliefs are in alignment with what it is you believe you can have, obviously. And then you're doing the thing that's going to bring whatever your desire is. Let's say it's a millionaire author, destiny to you. You're doing the actions that are going to make it inevitable. Mm-hmm. And so I want to help indie authors kind of understand that having that mindset that they can't invest in themselves, or they can't, pay a cover designer to get their great cover put on there, or they can't learn how to do book blurbs from, Brian Cohen, whatever the case is. It's like you need to, as an indie author entrepreneur, you need to understand that this is a business. And if you want to earn from it, you need to invest in some way, shape, or form, so that you can start to, grow yourself, grow your business, and grow that destiny, so it starts becoming a reality, whether it's 50K. One of the things that was really super, I've been fascinated with this for a while here, was through Written Word Media. Clayton Noblett did a number of studies. I think he's done 3 of them now, about the landscape of indie authorship, and like how many books it takes on average to earn this, like $60,000 a year, for instance, or $100,000 or more. And what he found, and what he's been finding over and over, is that you have to have about 22 books in your backlist just to earn that 60,000 mark. But if you want to hit 100,000, it shortens. It's like 28 books. So it's like 6 books difference between having 60,000 a year and $100,000 a year, based off of this survey. Obviously, the results are going to vary a little bit, but that's still really great benchmarks. Yes. And so if you know that you have to have a good backlist, and you have to, probably have good editing and good covers, understand your tropes and your genre, you're going to make a living. Eventually it's going to happen, and it's inevitable, but you need to treat your business like this thing that's going to just keep going. You're just going to keep creating those products. You're going to keep creating your worlds. You're going to keep pulling new readers in. And that's just the cycle that's just going to keep on rocking.
Yeah. And so even though you're not seeing it right now at this very precise moment, that's not to say that you're not going to see the rewards come in a year or 2 years' time.
Yep.
One thing I always find fascinating, and for myself as well, is from what you've seen, where do you think the reluctance to invest comes from? Because do you think it's just purely the idea of this return on a financial return on the investment, or do you think there's something deeper going on there?
Oh, there's definitely something deeper. It all comes down to worthiness. They don't know that they're worthy of doing the thing. There's some sort of disconnect there between their worth and what they think that they can accomplish. And so what they do is start sabotaging what they're capable of doing, because they don't think they're worthy of it. Either they're not worthy of having the money or having the acclaim or putting themselves out there to be seen, or they don't think their writing is good enough. So then imposter syndrome, obviously starts cropping up. There's a lot of worth stuff that's embedded in there. And so that's where that mindset part of it really comes into play. It's flipping the script on what we're telling ourselves in our minds so that we can change our thoughts, so that our belief structures are going to go more into an alignment with what it is we really desire. Because I personally believe that our desires are there on purpose. They're there to guide us toward what our actual destiny is. And otherwise, if we're not following those desires, and we're not listening to the emotions in our body that are telling us like, we want to go here, but we're not like anything that's making you feel bad, that's the wrong direction. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if we're not doing that, if we're not following that destiny, then we're going to feel unfulfilled, and we're going to feel like this is a bust and we're going to give up. And we don't need that. We need more awesome, creative, wonderful, big-hearted people putting their stuff out into the world and having money to do great things with the world. I mean, think of all the wonderful people you can help as a big-hearted entrepreneur, author, just by having money. I mean, you could be supporting other authors. You could be supporting a PA that needs a job. You could be supporting graphic designers who are, there's all sorts of people you start all of a sudden helping. And it could be even bigger than that. Maybe you're having a nonprofit organization that helps other people. You don't know. I mean, when you start earning money, the sky's the limit. And so why are you limiting yourselves?
That's a good question. Yeah, it is. So one question I had off the back of that was, and this is something actually I have to admit, I still struggle with this one a little bit. We as writers, we feel this compulsion to write. This is something that won't leave us alone. We can never quite scratch that itch. But sometimes the feeling or the idea that you've got a purpose for being here, or that there's a vision for your life, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. So do you have any kind of thoughts or advice for people, or a starting point for someone who is thinking, I know I'm here for something bigger. I know I'm here for something more than just me, but I don't know what it is. How can I start to figure that out?
Sure. Well, I've got two thoughts on that. So the first one is to go, okay, if you are a writer and you can't scratch that itch and you always are compelled to come back to writing, what makes you think that you don't already know what that destiny is? It might just mean you're in the second act. It might mean you're in the middle of your book right now. So, look at it like that, okay, that messy middle is just always long, and you slog through it and you're trying to get it over with and you just want to get to the freaking resolution, right? That's how we all are. Yes. But you might just be in the middle of your book. And so rather than feeling like you're lost or feeling like you don't know what you're doing, because I'm pretty sure your main characters probably feel that same way in the middle of the book too, just recognize where you are in your journey and know that that's the place where you're supposed to be. You know it. If you keep coming back to writing and you can't let it go, you know what your destiny is. You feel it. But if you really aren't sure, like if you're like, maybe this isn't for me, then that goes back to trusting those emotions. Your emotions are your guideposts. So if you go, writing is making me feel anxious and not good, and I don't like it, it might be time for a break. It might be time to dive into some new passions for a bit and to see if writing calls you back, or if something else takes you away. And there's no judgment in that, because you have a calling, you have your destiny. And so the only person that can understand that and trust it is yourself. So you need to, listen more to your own mind. And I think that's where, slowing down a little bit and having those breathing spaces comes in so critically, that if we don't have that, if we're trying to produce too quickly, or if we're trying to do too many things all at once, we're not listening to our voice. We're just starting to do that frantic manifestation, frantic everything. Mm-hmm. And then nothing feels right. And it just feels like it's static, Mm-hmm. And so it's like, you need to kind of calm that all out so that you can see clearly and feel clearly.
Oh, such good advice. And I love the analogy you've given us there, that maybe we are actually in our messy middle.
Yes.
And
right?
it does feel messy. Yeah.
One of the things that was so interesting to me, I had like an aha moment, I think it was a couple of weeks ago now, where for me, I've been trying to call this millionaire destiny to me for a while. And I'm like, gosh, why is it taking forever? Because I'm a double Virgo, guys. I have a moon and a sun in Virgo. So I want the thing when I want the thing. I want resolution now. And I kept feeling like I'm still waiting for this thing to happen. And I realized, I was like, why am I waiting? That's the energy I'm stuck in. I'm stuck in the loop of waiting. No, screw that. I am actively receiving. I can see and it's literally, I'm in the same place I was before, but rather than feeling like I'm still waiting, I am receiving. I'm seeing my backlist grow. I'm seeing my readership grow. I'm seeing my royalties grow. I'm seeing everything's going up and up. But for whatever reason, it was just a switch in my brain where I'm looking at it from a different perspective and going, I am actively receiving. It is already here. I'm just not, where I think I should be or want to be at this particular moment. And who cares about that? I'm seeing it happen.
Yeah. Yes. And so it almost feels like it's a change in perspective. You're just looking at the same situation from another viewpoint. And that feels like something that you're trying to help authors do, is to, rather than them constantly feeling stuck that they can't finish this book, or they can't get the publisher, or they can't get the royalties, but actually to have to reframe that for themselves and rethink it and almost adjust what they're putting out into the universe. And I know that you actively want to help people do that, and so you've got a new challenge sort of coming up to help people give an introduction to that. I wonder if you'd share something.
You bet. So yeah, March has been like the big cracking open for me. So I've been doing on TikTok a lot of millionaire author March concepts. So every day I'm dropping little tips on like how to change their mindset, right? And so in April, I'm launching this Millionaire Author Challenge, where we're going to be diving into the 3 fundamental aspects of millionaire author mindset and how to shift the poverty mindset and get more into one of the wealthy author who has this destiny that they need to embrace. And so on April 18th through the 22nd, we're going to be talking a lot about it. It's going to be a 3-day challenge, but we'll have a couple of extra days to have some talks and kind of continue to do the work that we're trying to dig into. And so if people are interested in that, they can always head over to my Millionaire Author Coach website. So it's millionaireauthorcoach.com/challenge, and they can get signed up there. And what we're going to do, like I said, we're just going to dig into, why it is that we want to hold on to this poverty mindset when we have all sorts of other unlimited possibilities out there, including bringing that millionaire author destiny to us. So let's do it.
Yeah, and because I've done a little bit of money mindset work as well, and what I'm sure will happen for people is when they do this and they start to see the changes, it'll impact not just their writing life and their books, but actually it'll have this kind of ripple effect throughout their whole life.
Absolutely, because it's changing the way that you're thinking. It's changing your thoughts, which changes your belief structure, which changes your energetic system, so that you are presenting yourself and acting completely differently to what you've been acting before. It's kind of funny because people go, oh my gosh, there's something different about you, and they can't quite put their finger on it, but it's because you're changing your energetic frequency to be more in alignment with the things that you're really liking, which lights you up, and people notice, because that's how we are. We're all energetic beings, and we have to kind of come back around to that and understand how powerful and potent that is.
Yeah, and it is literally, isn't it? It's lighting someone up, and we've all seen it in people around us, that there's something shifting. Oh, Carissa, this has been great. I've really loved chatting with you. I think what you're doing is a wonderful, wonderful thing for writers, and really helping them to see money in a different way, see themselves in a different way, and see their potential in a different way. So I wish you all the luck with that. I think it's going to be great. Now, if people want to, actually, I'd love to know, what are you working on right now? Are you still writing at the moment? Do you have time to?
Yeah, absolutely. You bet. Yeah, right now I'm actually in the middle of launch week. So as of this is recording, I'm launching a brand new series called Accidental Alpha. So it's my take on the werewolf genre, but it's midlife werewolf. And the main character is an alpha female instead of the, man-chested alpha man. So I just finished that. We're launching it up. And so I've been in the outlining phase for the rest of the series. And it's going to have 5 books. So I'm very excited about that. But I have another pen name that I'm going to be working on this year, which had this really crazy idea kind of come to me. And so I'm dipping my toe into contemporary romance with a little bit of a twist, because I can't do that without a twist, I guess. So we're going to see how that goes. And so I'm in the outlining phase. Really, I'm in outlining phase this week, but I'm going to be starting the writing phase. So my 6-week writing sprint is going to start next week for, I got to decide. I haven't decided if it's going to be Accidental Alpha Book 2 or if it's going to be this new pen name. If it's up to Jenny, my PA, it'll be Accidental Alpha, but we'll see what happens.
You are so busy. I'm so impressed.
Thank you. It's fun. It's so fun.
Okay, so if anybody wants to find out more about your books or more about your teaching and your coaching, where can they do that?
Sure. So my books would be over at CarissaAndrews.com. So it's Carissa with an A at the end, and then Andrews. So there are 2 A's in the middle, CarissaAndrews.com. And then authorrevolution.org is the website for the courses and for a lot of the stuff that is going to be around that. So not just rapid release roadmap, but there are a couple of other courses that people can get into because of it. So that's authorrevolution.org, 2 R's in the middle with that one. Go figure. It's like, I like those two letters right there in the middle. But yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that they can get to know me, or if they want to check out the Author Revolution podcast, that's available to them as well.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll make sure to link to all of those. That's brilliant.
Thank you.
Well, Carissa, thanks so much. Good luck with everything, and I'll be in touch soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Emma.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found that helpful and inspirational. Now, don't forget to come on over to Facebook and join my group, Turning Readers into Writers. It is especially for you if you are a beginner writer who is looking to write their first novel. If you join the group, you will also find a free cheat sheet there called 3 Secret Hacks to Write with Consistency. So go to emmadesi.com/turning readers into writers, hit join. Can't wait to see you in there. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.